Welcome to another episode of Fuck Your Job. I'm Ron Worley.
And I'm Josh Fullenweider.
Fuck your job.
All right. Welcome to Fuck Your Job. I'm Josh Fullenweider. I'm here with Ron Worley and Isla Brown. Isla is my sister-in-law, and she's got a really neat business and took a really fun idea and converted it into a business. And then she's also doing some stuff and growing a business right now when the rest of the world is holed up due to the coronavirus. So I think it's really awesome, and she's got a great story, and I want to share it with everybody here.
Josh,
Isla?
this chick is a badass, actually.
Yeah.
You need to tell the viewers. She's straight up a badass.
Yeah, a lot of respect for her. But Isla, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into doing what you're doing?
Okay. I have been a full-time paramedic on a 911 ambulance for 15 going on 16 years, and I have been a part-time instructor at Pikes Peak Community College for about the same amount of time. I primarily teach the EMS stuff, but mostly the medics. And yeah, that's my history. So
Okay.
about
Great.
5 years ago, I wanted to give them something fun to do towards the end of the year. The paramedic students get a little bit antsy at the end of the semester. So about that time, my sister started doing a whole lot of escape rooms and started dragging me along with her. And so I thought to myself, I was like, there's got to be a way to convert this into an activity for the paramedic students, to give them a fun, new, exciting, scenario type thing. So I kind of sat down and powwowed with my sister over Christmas, I think about 4 years ago, about how I would even do this.
Right.
And yeah, and she's definitely my biggest, like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great idea. This is awesome. And so I make them do paramedic skills, laryngoscopes and McGill forceps and farm math and all that stuff. But I incorporated it and I created this escape room out of it. And I called it Escape the Ambulance. So
Okay.
It's the same concept as a 1 hour escape room. But it's using your paramedic knowledge and skills, and it's all the base knowledge. There's nothing, there's no loops or anything. There's no surprises. It's stuff that you should know by the end of the year. And so I did that and got just rave reviews from the students about how I didn't even tell them what it was the first year. I just said Sim Lab with Isla and just kind of threw them into it. And
That's cool.
they all, yeah.
Nothing like being thrown into an emergency situation like that.
Exactly. And I left them a letter on the table and a whole bunch of confused paramedic students, but they all said it was the best. It was the best end of the year scenario, and it's about fundamentals, right? I just wanted to make sure they had good fundamental knowledge. And
Okay.
so I did that for a couple of years, and then somebody who is actually completely not associated with Pikes Peak heard about it from one of the preceptors of one of the students. When they're done with school, they go ride on the ambulance as a third rider to get precepted, and it's one of the guys that I know from AMR back in the day. And he was like, what you ought to do is you ought to take this concept to the EMS conferences. I think it would be something fun, something new, something they've never seen before. And so I got that. He put that up on Facebook, and I had about 25 people immediately like, yeah, that's a great idea. You should apply to do that. So I applied for the state EMS Keystone Conference the next year because I'd missed the deadline for that year. And after I had applied, I got hunted down by the Lyman Conference. It's a BLS conference. And he said, I heard about this concept. Do you have a BLS room? And would you bring it out to Lyman for the BLS conference? And at the time, I didn't have a BLS room.
What's BLS stand for, just so?
BLS is basic life support. It's EMTs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then ALS is Advanced Life Support Paramedics.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
I didn't know.
Me neither.
yeah, no, that's fine. So I was like, no, but I'm sure I could come up with something. So it ended up being like a little 15 minutes. He told me I had an hour. And then he goes, well, really they're 45 minutes. Well, really they're 30 minutes, you know, with a 15-minute, walk between. And it ended up being more like 20 minutes. So we were scrambling pretty quick to adjust there at the end to figure out, how to cram it into that amount of time and what stuff we could take out. But it was basically the same stuff. It was med math, medication math, pharmacology, but simple, basic, EMT level math. Yeah. And that was a huge hit. And then I had the Keystone Conference. Oh, so I didn't even have a small business at that point. At that point, I was just doing it as an instructor at the college, right? Okay. And so he sent me a W-9, and it asked for an EIN number. And I was like, I believe I called you, and I was like,
what is this?
What is this?
Yeah, I remember that.
And you're like, oh, he wants an employee identification number. You need to create a small business so they can pay you as a contractor.
Yeah, you want to get paid, right?
Right. And so I was like, oh, okay. So then it was, well, what do we name it? And it was like, well, maybe EMS escape rooms, maybe, this and that. And at the same time, my husband, Charlie, wanted to quit his job and be an EMT, CPR instructor, whatnot. So I wanted it to be able to include all the possibilities of what this could be. So I called it EMS Etc.
Nailed it.
So, yeah, and I'm really glad I did. So it's allowed me to do what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So,
and what are you doing now?
Well, so I went to the Keystone Conference. I had all these old people who had no idea what I was doing. And then they were getting all this positive feedback. And the second day I ran they just stuck me in the back hallway. They were like, we have no idea what kind of a space do you need? And I was like, really just anywhere. If you won't let me park an ambulance out front, just a hallway, it doesn't matter. So they stuck me in the corner next to the catering, just to kind of, and I was like, whatever, it works. So I had a bunch of big shelves that I partitioned off to, a BLS one and then an ALS one. And we ran that. And on the second day, the old people that were running the Keystone Conference came down to see what the heck I was doing down there that was so popular.
Very cool.
They were getting a lot of reviews of this is awesome that they don't normally get. Yes, because usually it's lectures. You go and you sit in the lecture. Yeah. And they don't have very many. They have the pediatric trailer that Children's brings every year, and they have the cadaver lab. But those are the main, like, those are there every year, right? So this was something new and exciting, and they still had no concept of what it was that we were doing. Everybody else was so excited about it. They were like, sure, what the heck, let's give it a go. Let's do it.
So I want to hear what your definition of old is, because I almost got offended for a minute.
If you don't know what an escape room is, that's all.
You're old.
Right. So yeah, and then I'm going to apply to do it next year. The difference with me is I don't invest ahead of time. I wait until I have the money to invest. Yeah. To upgrade, and because I don't know if it's, I didn't know this was going to be really popular or how big I could make it, or so right now we're sticking local to Colorado, but we're thinking about maybe applying for the Nebraska conference, maybe applying for, there's a big one that I'm not ready for in Vegas. It's the National EMS Conference, but that's my goal.
Okay.
Is to have a good enough, materials and be professional enough, and that I could and have enough experience to bring it to that platform, basically. So
how long have you been doing this, Isla?
the escape rooms, or
Yeah, the escape rooms.
I created it 5 years ago, but I've only had the business created since last year. The December in 2018, which I found out was a mistake. I should have just done it in January of 2019.
Taxes for nothing.
Yeah. But the biggest thing was I had to get a tax guy this year because I could not figure out how to do my small, and I knew there were things that I was going to miss out on, and I figured it would pay for itself, you know.
Usually
so,
does.
yeah. But until then, I'd been doing all of our taxes on my own. So
now you've kind of taken this etc. and expanded upon it recently here. You know, for the listeners out there, we're filming this. We're all in our own houses because of the lockdowns due to coronavirus. But you've kind of had the opportunity to expand in a way you weren't really expecting here recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with cancer in January, and I have my new headgear going on up here. Yeah.
You look great, Isla.
So they took that out January 4th. They took out the tumor, and then my sister came down for 3 weeks, watched the kids for a week, helped me rehab from the craniotomy for 2 weeks, which was just a crazy thing.
That's my wife.
Then,
for those that don't know.
yeah, that's Josh's wife. So what was it? Oh, we had tickets to see Jekyll and Hyde, and after I had recovered and was still before all this coronavirus stuff happened, we had tickets with Josh and Rebecca, and right before that happened, I got a call because I'm at home. I'm on FMLA leave. They've got me on driving restriction for who knows how long. So driving a 911 ambulance doesn't really, like, I don't know where that's going to come back, if it ever is, in my future. So I got contacted by the Teller County EMS conference. This was Teller County EMS Council. This was right before they locked everything down. This was about a week before they locked everybody down. And they said, we need to train 350 providers in 2 weeks on how to do all of this testing for the coronavirus. And we just don't have the bandwidth to do that. And we were hoping that we could contract you and your business, send us an offer.
Wow.
And I was like, meh. So I sent them an offer. They agreed. And then I woke up about 10:30 that night, and I went, what the crap did I just agree to do in 2 weeks? How am I going to train 350 providers on Zoom chats, you know, without, number one, like losing my mind, right? Just repeating the same stuff over and over and over again. And two, there's just not enough hours.
Because they didn't want all of them up together, right? They wanted them separated.
Yep. They wanted small groups and
isolated from each other in case one got sick.
Yep.
Okay.
So So then I thought I was up hours and hours that night. Like, how am I possibly gonna do this? And it occurred to me that if I could make, and I had been watching you guys at that time, and I was like, well, if Josh could help me make a voiceover of this Colorado Department of Public Health and Education PowerPoint that they had put out there, and I could intermingle, you know, the Teller County stuff that they wanted to use and the 4 checkoff sheets, and just kind of mash all this information together so it made sense and it flowed better, then they could watch that before, you know, they call and they essentially just short question and answer period, and then they test. And I got immediate resistance. Immediate resistance from the council about that. And so I thought, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to back out. I don't know how I'm going to do this otherwise. And so then I went up to Josh and Rebecca's and I said, Josh, I'm going to make this video and I'm going to convince them that this is the way to go. So in 2 days,
Yeah.
Josh and I wrote a script, did the video, and I sent it to them. Yeah, it was.
And they agreed.
And they agreed. I got a call on the way back down. I got a call from the doc in charge. And he says, Isla, I don't know why I ever doubted you. This is a fabulous idea. There's only 2 things I want you to change. And I was driving through Denver at the time. So like if it was something in the video, there was no way.
Yeah,
right.
Screwed.
Right? So I was like, oh no. And he goes, it's in the, we had made a form letter to send out to all the providers. And he just wanted to change things in the form letter. He didn't want to change the video at all. So I was like, oh, that I can do.
Yeah.
So he agreed. And it was a very busy 2 weeks. And then the Eastern Plains RETAC called and contacted me. It's the same guy who did the Lyman conference.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, I heard you did this for Teller County. Would you be interested in doing this for us? So
wow.
I was like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a totally different direction than I thought this would ever have taken, but it's really allowed me to stay home and not be stressed about money. And I'm still waiting for the checks to come in, but I billed them all last week, and I know they meet like once a month, so I'm not expecting the money anytime soon. But yeah, and then I got contracted by Cascade Fire Department, who is part of El Paso County.
Okay.
So they're not part of the Teller County group. And I just did a per provider fee for them. They had like 8 providers. I charged them $15 a provider.
Okay.
Yeah, but
that's great.
Yeah, so I decided to just have if you want access to the material, like when I did the Plains to Peaks RETAC offer, I did $500 for the material and then $15 for whoever they wanted me to train, because they are a lot more volunteer based. So I said, well, I could train like the captain, you know, the training captain or the chief, and then they can go train their people as it becomes necessary, but don't necessarily have to like all get on, you know. So I decided that was probably the most fair way to do, you know, for them. But I wanted to, you know, when I give them my stuff, it's not like it's got anything on it that won't allow them to look it up. But, you know, I just figured access for the materials, and Josh and I put in a lot of work.
Yeah. It was a very busy 2 days working on that. Well, and your mom was here, and you were trying to visit, and we were working around the kids, and
So it sounds to me, and just to put this in simple terms for myself, so you have managed to find a market, which is not just your normal market. These are professionals, so it's sort of a narrow market, but you're doing something in the market that is so new that you're pretty much the only one doing this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got the corner on the market, and then you're also scaled it by doing these videos. You're able to scale that, and now you can essentially take those videos and change them to whatever the new, after the corona's done, something else will come up, or you know, you've got something that's you can just plug and play now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible, especially with 2 days. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good job.
You're kind of you're the gold standard now, Isla. You're doing this while you've got, you know, recovering from brain cancer. Everybody else out there is saying, well, I don't have time or resources or energy, and they come up with all these excuses, and you're doing this, you know, while recovering from brain cancer, which I think is incredible. Yeah. And you're also doing it and have created a business and a niche when the rest of the world is shutting down due to coronavirus. I mean, that to me is just incredible that you're doing all that while everybody else is making excuses and, you know, freaking out because of the world's ending. You're out there killing it. So
yeah.
Amen. So kudos to you, Isla.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any more questions. Ron, did you have anything else you wanted to?
I have a ton, but we don't have time. That was very interesting, Isla. I'm so into your head. I want to know more later. So I look forward to hearing from you again.
Sounds good.
All right, Isla. We'll
right.
sign off here. Thank you so much for taking the time today to come and talk to us and share your story with everyone.
Absolutely.
Join us on Facebook at The Jobless Legion, or subscribe to our YouTube channel and like, comment, and share
so that we can get the message out to aspiring entrepreneurs just like you.
Thank you.
Fuck your job.